In this video, I will demonstrate how to build a date in SAS Visual Analytics. I will walk through using this date in an object, calculation, filter, and display rule. Let's get started with the demonstration. I will be using SAS Visual Analytics 2021.1 for the hands-on portion of this video, but the same techniques can be used in earlier releases starting with Visual Analytics 7.5 and later. This is the example report I will use to walk through and demonstrate how to build a date. You can see I have several pages in this report, and I'm going to walk through applying and using the date throughout these pages. First, let's start with something simple. Let's build a static date. To do that, I'm going to be on the data pane and click the New Data Item menu and select Calculated Item. Then from the Operators tab, I can expand the date and time grouping and double-click Date from MDY. Or if you wanted to use the search option to narrow down the available operators, you could search in this field. I double-clicked on the operator to add it to the expression. This operator takes three numeric values representing the month, the day, and the year. We can see that this first parameter represents the month and the acceptable values are 1 through 12. For day, the acceptable values for the day parameter are 1 through 31, and the final parameter accepts a 4-digit year. Let's go ahead and create a date for January 1st, 2021. Let's go ahead and give it a name and click OK. Let's go ahead and add this date to a Visual Analytics object. I'm going to double click on the list table to add it to page 1, and then from the roles pane, I'm going to add our new Build a Date data item. Here we can see our 1st of January 2021. There are other formats you can select if you don't like the way this is formatted. From the data pane, we can use the chevron to expand our Build a Date data item and use the Edit Format button. Here you can see all of the available formats for date. If you wanted the expanded version, you could select month, day, year, but in this case, we're just going to choose the month, day, year 8 format and click OK. There are lots of ways we can use this constructed date, but I want to demonstrate how to use this date in a calculation. Let's calculate the number of days I have for each row in my data compared to January 1st, 2021. To do that, I'm going to build a new data item and use the Calculated Item Expression Builder. Like I mentioned, I want to calculate the number of days between the date in my data item and our new date that we selected. So I'm going to use a simple numeric subtraction expression. And since we're working with SAS date data items, we need to use the treat as function. And this is going to treat the dates as numeric that can be used in an expression. Remember, SAS dates are a numerical representation of the number of days since January 1st, 1960. So from our Data Items tab, we are going to select our Build a Date and then the day in our data source. I'm not really interested in plus or minus the number of days, so let's just go ahead and throw an absolute value around this. And let's go ahead and give it a name and click OK. Let's go ahead and add a new list table to page 1 and add these columns. So we have Build a Date, we have our day, and we have our number of days. Based on these results, we can see that we have several rows of data for each day in our data source. And we don't really want to aggregate the number of days. I just want the single non-additive number of the difference between our January 1st, 2021 and the day of the row. So we can correct this aggregation by selecting a non-additive aggregation for our number of days. In this case, we could use min or max. I'll just go ahead and use the maximum. And then we can see that the number of days looks a lot more reasonable between January 1st, 2021 and January 2nd, 2019. This is a lot of data to look at. What if we just wanted to apply a filter to this list table that starts at the current month and moves forward? So let's look at how we can build a dynamic date for a filter. To do that, we need to go ahead and build a filter for the current month. We've already looked at how to build a date using static values. Now we need to build a date for current month, where the month is dynamically pulling from today, or the point in time now, and the year point in time now. So let's go ahead and create a new data item. Again, from the Operators tab, we're going to select our date from month, day, year. And we need to go ahead and determine the month of now. So we actually have several date time operators that we have available to select from. You can see we have a month and a year operator that we can use to make this happen. And we also have a now operator. If you're noticing the different icons in front of each of these operators, this tells you the result type that are going to be returned for each of these operators. So year is going to return a numeric, and here we can see the date from month day Y is going to return a date. And the date calendar with the little clock, these are date times. And we can see that the now returns a date time value, but if we want to get the month of now, we can see that it returns the month 1 through 12 from a date expression. So we can use date part to pull out the date value from a date time expression. So let's see how we can get the combination of all these operators to build a dynamic value for the current month of now. So the first thing we're going to add is month for our month parameter. And remember, I said we needed the now. If you go ahead and throw now in there as part of the month operator, we can see that it's giving me a warning, letting me know that it's a mismatch type, it's expecting date, and this is a date time. So all we need to do is wrap a date part around the now operator. And here we are going to get the month of now. We're going to just use the first of the month, so we can leave this as a static 1. And then we need to get the year of now. So I'm actually going to go ahead and copy this expression and paste it into the year. And instead of month, we need to replace it with year. So now we have dynamically built a date using the date from month, day, year operator, where we're dynamically pulling the month of now for the first and dynamically getting the year of now. Let's go ahead and give this a name, and we're going to go ahead and change the format. I like to use the month, day, year 8 format, and I'll go ahead and click OK. Let's go ahead and verify our value by adding it to the first list table. And we can see that it returns the current month is September, and I'm getting September 1st, 2021. Now we can use this value to create a filter for my table down below. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my table down below and then open the filters pane and select a new filter. I'm going to select advanced filter. And we want to select where the day in my data is greater than or equal to. You could drag and drop it, or you could double click on it. Is greater than or equal to our current month. Don't forget to look at the returned observations compared to your total observation. It just lets you know when to have a feel for your data if you're getting the right number of returned records. Let's go ahead and give this filter a name. Current month start filter, so it's going to return everything greater than the current month, and we'll click OK. And so now we can see when I initially clicked on the sort, so here we have the first day that we're getting back is September 1st, 2021. And one of the nice features in SAS Visual Analytics is we can turn this filter into a common filter. So anytime we wanted to filter where a day is greater than the current month, we can go ahead and change this to a common filter. And then on page 2, I happen to have a cross tab. Notice in the roles, I don't have any of day is not actually assigned to it, but I'm still able to apply that common filter to include only the records where day is greater than or equal to current month. And then these values are updated. Okay, for our final example on page 3, we are going to be creating a dynamic display rule that lets me change the highlighting that will dynamically update which rows are highlighted. To make this a little bit more interesting, instead of the first of the month, let's say we want to look at the 15th of the previous month to the 15th of the current month, and those are the rows I want highlighted in this list table down below. Let's go ahead and start with the 15th of the current month. We already saw and got our current month value, so it's going to be pretty easy to get the 15th of the current month. To do that, let's go ahead and right-click on current month and select duplicate. And then we'll right-click and edit. And to get the 15th of the current month, the only thing we really need to do here is update the day that's going to be returned and change our name of the data item and click OK. So that was very easy. The next thing we need to do is create the 15th of the previous month. So when we talk about that, let me toggle over so that we can look at the previous month logic we will need to do and incorporate into our expression. So let's go ahead and start at the beginning of the year. And if it's January 2021, then our previous month is going to be December 2020. So the logic to get from January 2021 to December 2020 will be to subtract 1 from month and subtract 1 from year. Let's go ahead and move on to the next month. Here at February 2021, the previous month is January 2021. The only thing we needed to do is subtract 1 from month. And we can see that the formula for March 2021 to February 21 is again just to subtract 1 for month. So we can see that for the rest of the calendar months, that the logic subtracting 1 from month is the same. The only different one is if it's January, then we need to subtract 1 from month and 1 from year. Let's go ahead and toggle over back to SAS Visual Analytics and build this expression. We are going to, from the data pane, create a new data item, a new calculated item. Again, on the operators tab, we are going to use the date from month day Y operator. Recall from building the dynamic current month date that we used month and year, and these return an actual numeric value. And as soon as we return a numeric value, we don't have the luxury of just subtracting 1 and SAS doing the automatic calendar calculation, knowing that January minus 1 is supposed to take you to 12. If we were working with dates and we did the subtraction at the date level or at the day level, then we wouldn't have to worry about any type of additional logic to take into account that January minus 1 should actually return December. But since we're working with actual numeric values, we're going to have to use a little bit of if-then-else logic. So in our operators, let's go ahead and throw our if-else expression into the month parameter. And again, we need to evaluate if the current month of now is 1. So let's go ahead and use a comparison. And we need to say if the current month of now, so actually I'm going to, might be easier to drag and drop instead of watching me type. So if the current month of now, so if the month of now, and again, remember we need to use the date part, that's why it's red. So if the month of now is equal to January, then remember we need to return December, which is 12. Otherwise, we need to do the month minus 1. So let's go ahead and get our subtraction expression, and we need to get the month. So we're going to go ahead and copy this and paste it here. So we need to get the month of now minus 1. So now we have our month expression, including the irregular expression for January already taken into account. If the month of now is January, then return December. Otherwise, just subtract 1 from month. And we want to return the 15th of the previous month. And so now we need to, if the month is January, we need to subtract 1 from year. Otherwise, leave the year alone. So let's go ahead and copy this if-then-else expression and work from there. So again, if the month is January, then we need to subtract 1. So let's go ahead and swap these guys. So if the month is January, then we need to get not the month, but the year. So let me go ahead and replace the operator with the year. We need to subtract 1 from year. Otherwise, we just need to return the year. So I can actually copy this expression and paste it in the else expression. So let's go ahead and talk this through. If the month is January, then I need to return the previous year. Otherwise, return the current year. All right, this looks good. So let's go ahead and give this a name and change our month, day, Y, year 8 format and click OK. Let's go ahead and verify our current month 15th and previous month 15th are giving us accurate values. So let's just go ahead and throw a list table on here, and in our roles pane, add the current month 15th and the previous and click OK. Okay, so here we can see the current month is indeed September. It's giving me the 15th of 2021, and the previous month is August 15th, 2021. So all this looks good. But how could we test our January value? Because that's the tricky one that we need to make sure our logic is working correctly. Well, you remember the very first thing we did is we had our build a date, which was January 1st, 2021. So let's go ahead and throw the build a date in the previous month calculation to see if we get it to work. So to do that, let's go ahead and make sure we don't have anything selected. Let's go ahead and duplicate the previous month, and then let's edit it. And this is going to be January's previous month, just to make sure our logic is correct. So we want to test it with January, and our build a date is January. So instead of getting the month of now, we want it to get the month of January. And if that equals 1, then return 12. I'm not going to worry about the else expression because this is going to trigger the true condition, and then it should return 12. So we'll know immediately if we're not getting the right answer here. And then down for the year, again, if the month of our January is 1, then it should return our January year minus 1. So let's go ahead and check to see if our January irregularity is being accounted for correctly. Go ahead and add this to the list table. So for January 1st, 2021, it is returning December 15th, 2020. So it looks like our logic is working correctly for the previous 15th month, even when getting to the irregular January expression. Okay, so now we need to create our display rule for this list table. Again, remember we want the 15th of the previous month to the 15th of the current month highlighted in blue. Let me toggle back over so we can look at the display rule logic we will need to build in SAS Visual Analytics. So for the display rule logic, the very first display rule we will need to add to the list table is where day is less than or equal to the current 15th month. And we are going to highlight those rows in blue. So you can see on our continuous timeline here, arbitrary previous month line and current month line, everything less than current month is going to be highlighted in blue. But we can see that is going to highlight even beyond the previous month rows, and that's not what we want. We want it to just highlight this window of time. So we're going to have to add a second display rule to basically erase the blue highlighting. And that second display rule we're going to layer on top is anytime the row is where day less than or equal to the previous 15th of the month, we're going to erase it by basically just highlighting it white, which is back to our original formatting of the list table. So let's go ahead and toggle back over. Okay, in our report, let's go ahead and highlight our list table. And we're going to create the display rules by using the rules pane. And we're going to select new rule for day. And again, this is for the current month. So anytime day is less than or equal to our current month 15th. Remember, this is what we want to highlight blue. So in order to get the font to stand out, we're going to make the font white and the background blue. And I want it to be for the entire row. And I'm going to click OK. So now you can see that it's highlighted everything, even beyond the August 15th date. We can see we have February highlighted and July and June, and this isn't what we want. So we need to add that second display rule on top of this one. So we're going to create another display rule, again for day, where anytime day is less than or equal to the previous 15th month, we're going to format it back to what it should be. So it's going to be black text on a white background. I'm going to show you what happens when I don't select row. I'm going to click OK just to show you how to edit it really quick if you get something unexpected. We don't want it to just remove the highlighting for the day column. We actually want it to remove the highlighting for the entire row. So let's go ahead and click that. Okay, so now here we have, we want it between August 15th and September 15th. So these look good. Let me go ahead and select a different value for product line because I think I have some better days that show that highlighting. So yep, here we can see we have August 17th highlighted through 9/12, 9/12. So this is giving us the previous month 15th highlighted through the current month 15th in a display rule. Success! Now you know how to dynamically generate a SAS date to use in SAS Visual Analytics by using the date from month, day, year operator. For more information, please refer to SAS Visual Analytics documentation or check out one of these videos or blogs. Thank you, and check back with the Technical Insights and Expertise series for additional tips.